Hi, my name is Corme, and today we're walking you guys through how I killed Mythic Sarkareth as a preservation evoker. So in this video, I'm going to be going through kind of like a healing breakdown of our kill phase by phase. I'm going to give you guys an idea of how I set up my CDs, and of course, before I get into that, I am going to give you guys my talents. If you guys want other stuff like stats, trinkets, and stuff like that you should be going for, I have a full-blown guide, but just for this fight, I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about the specifics of my talents. So I am just running a typical Spirit Bloom Echo build. Most of your Spirit Bloom or your Echoes are being consumed by either Spirit Bloom or Dream Breath, but you're Spirit Blooming more often because you are taking 20-second Spirit Bloom in this build with Spiritual Clarity. And then outside of that, I am running just Stasis. I'm running 3-minute Rewind, but I'm not actually getting use out of 3-minute Rewind. So whether you take 3-minute Rewind or 4-minute Rewind, I'm only pressing it twice in a fight, and I don't need the 3-minute talent to do that. It's just the most efficient way for me to get down here because I actually do want to get 2 points in the flow state. So originally I was running something like this, where I only had 1 point in flow state, but I was getting extra mana and regen and like damage out of energy loop. However, I found that I do need the 2 points in flow state in order to make the timings work, because on this fight the timings are going to be very tight, and I'll get into that a little bit in phase 1 and you'll see what I mean. So yeah, I definitely do want 2 points in the flow state. And then over here, putting a point into Ancient Flame just makes DPSing a little bit better. Damage does matter on this fight. Time Spiral, I didn't really have this assigned, and to be honest, I don't even know if I pressed it on our kill, but early on I was good about pressing it, but later on it didn't become as important. It sometimes became important in phase 1 when we kept getting like bad bomb spawns and stuff like that. Rescue also wasn't like, there wasn't like amazing times I used it, but every few pulls I'd find like an instance to like save someone with it. And other than that, not a whole lot going on in this tree. Pressing Roar can be good for helping to CC the ads in phase 2. Zephyr, of course, you want to make sure you get, but I wouldn't say there's like, usually there's some like strict stuff like, oh, you want a time scroll, like here you gotta rescue someone, things like that. But this felt a lot less strict as far as like your utility, and a lot more focused on just being able to do as much healing and damage as you could during this fight. Okay, so then on to, I'm just going to start with phase 1. I'm going to kind of show you guys how I'm going to set up my CDs. Okay, so starting with phase 1. So phase 1 is a lot of damage. It is not uncommon for you to end phase 1 as Evoker like well above 300,000 healing, especially towards the end here with a lot of healing. But there's 2 main like damage events that you are looking out for, and it's when you are clearing your debuffs. So in Mythic you get 2 debuffs of a Pressing Howl, and you have to clear 1 with a Disintegrate and 1 with a Searing Breath. You can't do 2 Searing Breaths or 2 Disintegrates. It won't work in order for you to clear, and if you don't clear, then you get stunned at the end and you're basically just going to die. So the first like big clear comes with the second Searing Breath. Some people do clear in the first Searing Breath, like it's an assigned DPS, but the majority of people are clearing on this second Searing Breath that comes out. So I usually stasis and set up before pull, which I'm going to show you in the video. It expires right about here, so I put 3 TAs out and then an Emerald Communion. And then the second one comes over here, so we do a Disintegrate clear, so everybody who still has a stack left over that didn't get targeted with a Disintegrate is going to be sitting in the Disintegrate to clear. And that's going to be my Stasis, my Rewind, and my Dream Flight, because right out of that Disintegrate clear is also going to be the Glittering Surge, which is the big AoE. So he does a Glittering Surge at the end here, and he does one here at the beginning, but the one at the beginning is kind of like, meh, who cares at the beginning. There's less rolling, a bunch of like self-healing rolling and stuff like that, so of course nobody's assigning anything over there. Okay, now before I get into the video a little bit, I do just want to show you guys some stuff about like the healing with like logs. Okay, so this is going to be my, this was my P1 healing for our kill right here. As you can see at the end, I'm ending at close to 340 HPS. You can see my breakdown right there, followed by the Shaman. The Link and the APT were really, really good for this fight. Instead of having a second Holy Priest is usually the go-to, but the Link and APT were actually pretty valuable for us. And then of course we have a Holy Paladin. And then the other thing I want to show you guys, just because I was mentioning earlier that you need to take 2 points in flow state, just kind of like, I just want to give you guys a visual of this before I get into the fight so you realize how important it was. So on our kill poll, as is tradition, when you were having a bad pull, that is when you're going to kill the boss. And this was actually a bad pull for me, like a bad phase 1. So for phase 1, my goal the entire time is to keep up flow state as much as possible, because getting that second stasis in is like super, super tight for timing. And also, if I keep it up the entire time, then I get an extra Dream Breath and Spirit Bloom in phase 1. And then additionally, I get an extra Spirit Bloom in phase 2 if I do it correctly. If I mess it up, then I miss out on that Dream Breath and Spirit Bloom in phase 1, and I miss out on a Spirit Bloom in phase 2. And also, it makes my stasis timings later even weirder. So really tight timings that I was trying to go for here, so I kind of messed it up on our kill poll. It still ended up working out fine. You'll see throughout the video the healing is fine, everybody lives, but just say it's not my best. But just to like give you guys a visual of what I mean by this, so this is our kill poll, and this is my flow state uptiming on our kill poll for phase 1. Just looking at phase 1, so it's 69%. And then just to give you guys an idea of a poll where I have really good flow state uptiming. So this one I ended at 370. So the main difference between my healing, my cat is going to be here the entire time. He loves doing this. So the main difference between like these two phase 1s is like the lifeline healing is barely negligible like difference, rewind barely different. The main difference is the fact that I get extra Spirit Bloom Dream Breath, and it's actually the difference of 30,000 healing, and and what enables that is the flow state uptiming. So on this poll I had 85% uptime on flow state instead of the 70% that I had here. And I'll show you guys where I messed up when we go through the VOD, but I just want to like give you guys that visual before I go into the VOD and kind of like harp on the things in the kill poll that I actually messed up on. Okay, now we're gonna get into the video. Here we are about to pull the boss. So as you can see, before we pull the boss, before I even eat my feast, I always set up my stasis with 1 TA in it. And then when we start the pull timer, kindly ask your raid leader, if they don't already, to at least do a 15-second pull timer on this boss, because you want to press your second TA inside your stasis at 12 seconds, like 12 seconds on the timer. Let me see where we pull. Okay, there we go. All right, so this is where the pull timer is at 15 seconds. You can see I'm already casting it right now. There's 11 seconds left on the pull timer up here. Sorry, my cat is going to make this video fun as always. And we're getting ready to pull, and I always just fire breath on pull. And right now I'm just DPSing, and so what happens here is that the bombs are going to go down. You're going to take one take of a bomb and you're going to gate. You want to get this TA off before the gate. I want to start the timer on my stasis like as soon as possible, but I also want to make sure that I'm still getting value out of the 2 TAs. So I'm still getting value out of these echoes that I put out before. That's why it's important for you to put out at 12 seconds so that you can gate Spirit Bloom and still get value out of these echoes from the second TA in your stasis. So I just cast that third one, I press the gate, I'm going to land here, I'm going to start casting Spirit Bloom, and then I'm going to VE, and that's because I'm getting ready to press Dream Breath. So I ideally want to press Dream Breath when this flow state right here, you have a flow state tracker, I have a flow state tracker, my thing right here is going to see the buff the whole time, is about to run out, it's because I'm trying to keep the flow state up, and I'm also just going to do some healing when we start doing some damage again. It usually just works out that way. So right here, we're getting knocked back, I'm doing one more TA, and then I'm going to Dream Breath. I'm going to keep that flow state back up, and then here I'm just going to be putting out some echoes and TAing and then pressing Spirit Bloom when we get this first clear. So this first Dream Breath that goes out, there's going to be a few people that are assigned to clear on this one. It's like 4 or 5, so you do take some damage when that goes out. And so I Spirit Bloomed there, and then I'm also running Aberrus, which I forgot to talk about my talent section. But I will be like using these stacks when I'm able, when I don't have echoes out, but I have some essence to burn, so I always press my Emerald Blossom right here, and my stasis is about to expire. The stasis expires when we're moving and we're dodging bombs, so it's kind of important that you try and aim it as best you can. As you can see, when that happens, I angle down my camera. This is annoying to play because there's a fake wall behind you to make sure that my TAs are actually going to be hitting people. And then this is where I mess up, and this is what messes up everything. I'm supposed to Fire Breath right here to keep my flow state going before I go, because I'm about to Emerald Communion on this, but I forget to Fire Breath, and that's what sets up, ruins my entire P1, is missing this one Fire Breath. So I'd say 98% of the time I hit it, and then of course on the kill poll for some reason I think someone was talking during the poll about something, and it's so easy for me to just like get distracted and not realize it. And as soon as I did it, I realized my mistake, and I was like, well, my timings are gonna be scuffed for the rest of the fight. Anyways, it's recoverable though, and you still will do fine this fight. Just pointing that out for you. Okay, so I press hover, I VE someone, and I start Emerald Communing right as the Stirring Breath is going off. So there's a couple like globals to set up too, so it's a little bit annoying. And then right out of this, I want to Spirit Bloom right away. So right now I have Dream Breath and I have Spirit Bloom available, but I want to start the timer on, number one, I want to start the timer on Spirit Bloom sooner, because I'm going to get 2 more Spirit Blooms before my stasis, this one and one more, whereas Dream Breath, I'm not going to get it before my stasis, so I'm not in as much of a hurry to press it. The only hurry to press it is that my Calvacera is going to go away, but Spirit Bloom number 1 I want to get on CD, and number 2 I want to press it before the swirly starts spawning. The most frustrating part of playing an Evoker on this fight is the fact that you are constantly moving with the bombs, constantly moving with the swirlies, like all that kind of stuff. You're going to get really frustrated trying to get Spirit Blooms off until you find good spots to press it every single time. And so these are the timings that I found to be the most consistent. So I get the Spirit Bloom off, I put out a TA, and then I press Dream Breath. And then right now I'm getting ready for my next Spirit Bloom that's coming up. So after I get over here, I should ideally Fire Breath right here. Yeah, because I want to be able to keep my flow state going, and before I can press the Spirit Bloom I need to TA and full channel the Spirit Bloom. So I'd rather Fire Breath so I have flow state rolling while I'm doing this other stuff. And then I Spirit Bloom. And then right here, usually my stasis CD right now is usually a little bit lower than this, but like I said, since I messed with the Fire Breath, it's not, and so this is where things are going to get scuffed. Because normally what I do right here is I'm VE'ing and then I'm hard casting Echoes, and as soon as stasis comes up, it's a TA into a Dream Breath. But that is going to not exactly work out the way I want it this time. So right here I'm going to VE. I VE too early, looking at my timers. So my Calvacera is actually going to run out right before my stasis comes off CD. So it's unfortunate. And I'm not going to get a Calvacera on this Dream Breath that I'm about to cast. But I'll get it on the one inside the stasis at least. Right now we are stacking up to clear the Disintegrate. You can see right here it says to soak the Disintegrate, so I'm standing in the line. And then I tip the scales a Spirit Bloom in here, and then I'm going to VE and rewind. So I already rewound, and then I'm going to VE, and then I'm going to activate my stasis. I'm going to do a Dream a Dream Flight. I'm Fire Breathing to get my CDR back up, because you don't get it when you press out of stasis. Pressing a TA, and then I'm probably just going to press a Spirit Bloom because it comes up here, but ideally, if I had not messed up my stuff earlier, I would have been able to Spirit Bloom there, and I'd get another Dream Breath right here, and that's where I get the extra cast from. It would make my timings in phase 2 a lot smoother. So right now we're going down. What I usually like to do is try and get these first 2, and then stack on Moon before I go and try and get any swirlies. That way I can just go run on this side, and then come back here and get this one. Ideally, you want to try and get 10 stacks, but the most important thing is that you get back upstairs. Obviously, you care about haste, but you aren't a DPS, and you don't scale with haste that well, so it's not that important. As soon as I get up, I'm also pressing an Empower spell basically right away, just to start getting my flow state going. And just suppressing power spells because that's a legendary, so I'm just trying to get out the buffs. Like you can see there's one on the Shadow Priest and there's one on our Hunter right now because I took the time to do those 2 extra power spells. And then right here the bombs are spawning, so whenever the bombs spawn and they have to go downstairs, that's when everybody gets a debuff on them whenever they go downstairs. And there's going to be some damage from that. So that is the main source of damage here in P2. So I'm going to stop for a second and show you guys my CDs for P2. P2 is like really slow and really chill, and you use absolutely no CDs that are longer than 2 minutes. So I will Dream Flight here, I will Stasis here, but in this fight, you're only going to rewind in P1 and P3. Do not try and get a rewind in P2. You're only going to AM in P1 and P3. You're only going to Healing Tide in P1. Like anything that's 3 minutes, you're only going to get 2 uses of. If you're trying to get a 3rd use by putting it in P2, you're just padding. Plain and simple. 2, this is all you really have to worry about. So this is like just like leftover damage from P1 that's kind of showing up. This is like dread damage and people going down with bombs. And like the damage kind of ramps up like a tiny bit at the end. So this is where I detonate my stasis, is on the 2nd to last dread. And then on the last, because you have to do like a dread, and then you all have to go down into soak, and you need everybody to be healthy going into that. So that's usually where I would use a Tip the Scales, a Spirit Bloom, and a Dream Flight, which I'm going to show you. So yeah, we have the guys with the bombs that are getting ready to go down. They're just doing some DPS beforehand. Usually you're picking DPS that get good use of like the haste buff. This guy had the dread debuff, so it got dispelled, and you saw me immediately VE it. And then now I'm just sitting here and basically waiting for my stasis to come up because I want to put a Dream Breath, a Spirit Bloom, and a TA inside this stasis. And I want to get it on cooldown as soon as possible because I want to make sure that it's up at the beginning of phase 3 so I can get 2 stasises in phase 3. So even though, so that's why I'm willing to sit on the Dream Breath and the Spirit Bloom here. So stasis comes off. I immediately Dream Breath. I'm waiting for the stasis before I Spirit Bloom. And then now I have that set up, and then when the next dread goes off, I'm going to VE again and then detonate that stasis. Everybody else is going to gate, but I'm just going to VE so that I can get my buff. Sorry, I know he's probably making the mic really loud. So that goes off. I VE whoever had the infinite duress because they're going to get knocked up in place. They're not going to get knocked back, so I can just VE, and then I detonate my stasis. And then from here, we're just going to be moving a lot. The biggest thing that you're probably looking out for from this point on is if anybody has a couple extra stacks, and then also you're making sure that people going down with the bomb are usually pretty safe. But at this point in phase 2, they're pretty fine. You're gonna have to worry about it a lot more in phase 3 though, as far as like these bomb debuffs. That's why I had them change a certain color so that I will actually look at their frame a lot more. So it highlights their name on my frame for me. All right, now we're baiting the breath. And then now we finally get to start moving. I'm going to Spirit Bloom. So like the damage at the end of phase 2, it isn't like crazy. It's not crazy enough to assign any CDs to, but we were having trouble with this a few pulls just because we had absolutely nothing really assigned here before I started putting my Dream Flight here. So I just tipped the scales of Spirit Bloom. They're about to dispel, so I always kind of cast my Dream Flight before the knock goes out because 1, you get to avoid the damage, 2, you need to like get back in place like really quickly. So I don't always get, I never got full value on this Dream Flight, and I just accepted it because like if I didn't get full value on the Dream Flight, it's fine. But if I went really far and I was out of place from when we went down right here, that was going to wipe us or at least kill me way more than anything else I was going to do was. So that is always the priority, is to just do a short Dream Flight, get some value out of it, get a little bit of healing, go downstairs, get your stuff, and then come back upstairs. So I get into phase 3. I do want to show you guys a bit of the healing breakdown and where kind of the damage is coming from. So the first like instances of damage are when the first bombs spawn, and so whenever they go downstairs, you get a destabilize on the entire raid. It's a dot on the entire raid, and then you go into the hide, and then you go into the dread, which also goes into a soak. So this is quite a bit of damage you need to heal through, but honestly it's not scary, and most of it is just countered by like the fact that like you press Rally, Darkness, all your Zephyrs, like everything, like all your, most of like your DR type stuff all goes here because it's just living 2 big hits. However, because I don't want to press stasis until the end, and I can press stasis here, I do press it here, and you're going to see what I do in order to make sure I get these 2 TAs inside that to get like a decent Emerald Communion. It's not the most amazing Emerald Communion, but it was the best spot I could find without it just basically being like a defensive somewhere else in the fight. And then after you bait the stuff, you get bombs again, you get another hide, and this is where the damage really starts to ramp up because at this point everybody has a lot of like the stacks of Oblivion. Like everybody needs to have at least 5 before the everyone go down phase, and so you're having everyone with 5 ticking for a little while, and it's a lot of healing. So usually on the dread, on the knockback, that is a good place to rewind. This is also where I have a stasis, and I also have a Dream Flight. This Dream Flight is normally assigned to this hide. However, we were really safe on the hide because we had Healing Tide Totem and Divine Hymn, so I ended up just pushing it back. And even then, it wasn't that great. I think I could have pressed it like a little bit earlier, and it would have been better, but it's the same. And then at the end, I had tip the scales up, so I ended up using tip the scales at the end. And then just to give you an idea of like the healing breakdown for phase 3, it's going to be like a lot of Dream Breath, Spirit Bloom, and you can see the rewind. Like I said, a lot of the healing comes like right here before you go down, so we can zoom in on that. Because of like the stasis with the Dream Breath and the Spirit Bloom and how much damage you take at the rewind, it's like a lot of your healing is going to be in like this portion of the fight. And then also, again, just on like that first dread that I showed you where we have like the Lifebind, like Emerald Communion ramp right there. Not the like most value EC, but I think it was like the most value spot I could get it just because it's so annoying to set up EC. But yeah. Now, when I come up, my game plan is going to be use a Dream Breath, press Stasis, and then Spirit Bloom and 2 TAs. So the reason I'm doing Spirit Bloom with 2 TAs is because I want to set up an Emerald Communion when we do the knock gateway. And so I don't want to sit on my hands enough to do 3 TAs, but I can sit on my hands enough to do 2 TAs, make sure, and then when I do it that way, it means that I get it on CD, because I want to get it on CD as soon as possible, but I also don't want it to detonate early. And so doing it this way, I found it was like a little bit like tight timing again, but it was the most consistent way for me to make sure that I had healing for when the dread was going off and when we were soaking the subsequent void thing that drops on us. So you'll see that in a second. But yeah, when I come up, I always just put my Dream Breath on CD after a VE. Right now we're stacking and we're baiting the bombs. And then as soon as my stasis comes off CD, I'm just going to Spirit Bloom, even though we're pretty much full health now. Ideally, it would be off CD as soon as you came up. But like I said, my timings on this fight were scuffed and pushed back quite a bit because we're missing that one Fire Breath at the beginning. It's really fun. And then I put 1 TA in it, and so you need to go forward and you need to soak. Everybody soaks, everybody gets 1 stack. It's really important that everybody gets to 5 stacks towards the end of the fight to make sure that when they soak one of these motes, they can go downstairs. So it's important that you are keeping a good eye on that. So now we're all at 1 stack. You can see the bomb guys are going down. Ideally, you're healing the bomb guys here, but since I'm in my stasis window, my hands are kind of tied. But this is at the beginning of P3, so there's usually plenty of healing, and we never had trouble people dying to bombs here. It's usually later in the fight that you'll see that people are going to, like, the people that get the bombs are, like, really scary. And here we're getting ready to do the first Scouring Eternity, or is what you probably, like, have it referred to as, like, the hide, where you need to hide behind, like, one of these rocks. So this is like my stasis is over, it's already stored. I consumed all those echoes with the Spirit Bloom. I'm going to VE and I'm going to Dream Breath inside this hide. And for the most part, it's beginning of P3. There was not a lot of healing in P2. Like all the healers usually have like quite a few things they're able to press at the beginning. And you're not really scared. So here, this is where you want to use the majority of your DRs, except for you're not using AM, but you are using like Rally, Darkness, we're using both of our Zephyrs and stuff like that just to make sure that we're safe here. These guys are going to get masked. We're going to take damage from both the dreads. It's going to knock us back. We're going to go in the gateway, and then we're going to go over here and we're going to soak. So what's going to happen is once these dreads go off, my stasis is going to detonate, so it's going to be a Spirit Bloom. It'll echo a couple times on that, and then it'll have 2 TAs out, so then I'll have 5 echoes out in which I'm going to Emerald Communion with it. Is it the most amazing Emerald Communion? No, but Emerald Communion is like one of those CDs that's hard to get a good use of just because of like the amount of setup it takes. So I will take a mediocre use over just having to throw it away, meaning like I probably only get like 1 or 2 lifelines with it later on. And again, it just worked out for my stasis timings to do it this way. Okay, so here I just have my 2 TAs go out, and then I immediately VE'd, so I have Lifebound on everyone. And I'm Emerald Communioning as we're scooting out of this. And then we have to, we're also baiting the rocks at the same time we do that. And so now everybody has quite a few stacks. You can see like a lot of people have like 4 or 5 stacks. And here the range are all stacking up for a bait for the bombs. So this is where the bombs start getting a little bit scary for the people to get. Also, you need to make sure you're not getting extra ticks from the bombs because this is where damage starts ramping up. As soon as these bombs drop, it's going to be an Ascendance. And once that Ascendance is over, it's going to get rolled into a Salve. After that is over, it's going to be the Hide, which gets rolled into a Hymn. And then after that, that is where my CDs come in, where I'm going to rewind and stasis again. So up until then, this is where I'm kind of AFK for the most part. Like my healing doesn't really come in until later. Okay, so we're moving out of the bombs. We're going forward. The main thing I'm looking at right now is making sure that I'm able to get a Dream Breath and a Spirit Bloom inside my stasis. So the timings here are always a little bit awkward, I have to admit, because sometimes I'd find myself sitting on my hands. But it looks like this is going to work out pretty well. I have Spirit Bloom back in 15 seconds, stasis back in 22, and also Dream Breath back in 22. It's just important that when you are in this kind of position that you're looking at making sure that you're going to VE before you start putting out echoes before this stasis. So I just VE'd right there. So I'm going to start prepping and I'm going to sit on this Spirit Bloom until like the 3rd ability in my stasis. Because I want to make sure that I'm getting the Dream Breath on CD as soon as possible. And then I'm going to Spirit Bloom. And so now I have my stasis set up. And usually my Dream Flight was assigned here, but we were always so safe here that oftentimes I just sat on it. I think ideally I should actually be pressing it before the Scouring Eternity goes out, because that's when things are actually a little bit scary, because the salve is starting to run out, but the hymn hasn't started rolling. You can't have your priest hymn in phase 3, except for during the Scouring Eternity for the most part, because they have to stand still. In phase 1, when you have them hymn, you give them spell warding. But in phase 3, you can't give them spell warding. Spell warding is used for one of the bombs, so you don't have to sacrifice someone. So the best and only places that they can just, you know, channel for a long time are usually doing the Scouring Eternity, so that's like a default thing for them. So usually those are pretty safe. So I have my stasis set up. This guy is getting spell warded. And now we're going to get the Dread, the knockback, and this is where I'm going to rewind, and I'm going to press my stasis, and I'm going to Dream Flight, because this is where all of the healing is. We're going to see our healing shoot way up. So I'm going to Spirit Bloom, put out a Dream Breath, and right now we are looking to stack up and to go downstairs. So right now we're all stacked. We get the Link. This is where we use Link. Link was pretty nice for this spot, just to make sure that everyone was healthy before they soaked this and went downstairs in these last couple ticks. And then we go downstairs. Here I'm just gathering. I don't know why this extra one showed up. That scared the heck out of me. And for the most part, once you get to this fight, you're kind of home free. Like, the healing is scary leading up to that, but at this point it's really free. For the most part, you just have a black hole to soak, and you have a Scouring Eternity. Now, it was a little bit scarier for us because we actually got the Dread debuff here, which normally you don't get, but we ended up just dealing with it just fine. So we're going to soak the black hole after I'm done dodging. I press Zephyr for that because I have it back, and then we're going to get knocked back, and so I tip the scale of the Spirit Bloom there. I'm going to Dream Breath before, just because like the name of the game here is just like we are just burning the boss. I just want everyone to live. This fight is almost done, so I just want to press it early on. And then I'm fire breathing, and I'm not looking at the boss's health, so for some reason I'm casting Echoes thinking I'm going to get another Spirit Bloom, but the boss is dead. And that is basically it. So yeah, phase 1, super intense. Phase 2, super chill. Phase 3, it's like half and half. Like, there's like a very intense like minute, and the main thing that you should be looking at during that time is keeping those bomb guys alive. Like, as an evoker, it's not as easy because you can't just sit there and like living flame them or flash heal them. Like unlike Echo, where like there are these debuffs that like on several people that you could like target with Spirit Bloom, and that was like all you really had to worry about. Like, when those bombs are getting scary, the whole group is getting scary. So kind of had mixed feelings about Evoker in that regard on this fight. Evoker is able like to do a lot of healing though on this fight. You have like really good throughput. Stasis timings are really tight though. That is like the thing, is like you saw like I've had like on a really good pull you can do really amazing HPS. Like when I go back and rekill this, I'm not going to mess it up. And it's going to look way better. But even when you don't do it perfectly, it is still really good. But you do need to be taking like the time to pay close attention to your flow state and making sure that you're keeping the buff up all the time if you want to give that many stasises. Otherwise you may need to give one up or get less optimal timings with them. I can't think of better timings than the ones I had, at least from my perspective, because I had stasis at like all the like main choke points that I wanted it. Like before you go down in phase 3 is really critical, and right at the end of phase 1 is really critical, and for both of those you need to have like good CDR to get there. So yeah, thank you so much for watching, and good luck with your progression.